Hey everybody, this is PD from the Spin Rack. We also have
Calvin Ellis ready to rock.
today we are back on our aliens, Romulus. We have a more detailed trailer. Um, any thoughts before we go?
My big thought is, uh-oh.
Stop it. All right, here we go, everybody. Check it out.
Is this really where you want to spend the rest of your life?
You know I don't.
Then this is our only ticket out of here.
What's happening?
There's something in the water.
What do you mean there's something in the
I don't know,
water?
there's just something in the fucking water. Fucking thing's hunting us.
Open the door, come on.
Run.
Are you sure you want to do this?
Here we go. What are your thoughts?
I have to admit, some of those scenes right there look pretty interesting. I like the one with the see-through chest and to see like, oh, okay, let's see
Yeah,
what's going on. Uh-oh,
yeah,
probably you probably wish you didn't know what was going on. Now that you've seen it, like what the hell?
yeah.
Though those scenes with the face hugger, I'm like, I don't know, man. Some of those are a little too. I don't know. That whole thing is like the face hugger's already kind of phallic to begin with. Now to see that thing flickering around in front of your face, like, look, just shove the egg down the guy's throat already. You know, this thing flipping over here, like, just do it. Too much.
Well, I think about it, like who is it? I think the writers, they were trying to come up with another. It's like they come up with another hook. So then they ran to one of the writers ran to the other one and said, he's like, I got it. He said the alien is gonna have sex with the human and they're gonna give birth to an alien. And that ultimately what it was. So now they're trying to get a little closer to that. Seeing the alien, the face hugger trying to get in there, which I think this since there's not a visual of seeing that happen, it's always been instantaneous, and you get it that it when whatever it had, when you see it pulled off, you got how it happened. The
It's
same thing.
rap.
We never saw this. Let's kind of go and see if we can make this even more visual, more gruesome for the people. So yeah.
Well, the whole idea of the face hugger. I mean, to be honest, the face huggers they're not really designed for like another creature other than a human being when you look at it, because it would be really hard to imagine it doing that to a dog or some, with the snout, how that would go. But or an elephant for that matter. But it's designed for a human being. So you have the fingers, so it's gonna lapse, it's gonna latch onto the head. It's got the tail, so it's gonna strangle the throat, so you're gonna have to take a breath. And then as soon as that bang, egg. So it's not a big deal. But the whole idea is this person is still fighting, like and then it's got the little thing flicking around, like, oh, just nasty. It's just nasty at the end of the day. Too much. I understand that we got to do. I know. I'll say it like I always say for these guys. I know we got to try new things, but nasty. Just
Well,
impregnate the person already.
the hard part for this is I think someone just like you say with like the Predator, when it comes to the studio, the studio doesn't want the Predator to do anything different. They want them, they can't really talk. They have to just mimic people. And like whenever they wind up in the comic books where people write these scenes and they're like, no, Predator can only mimic. Like the Aliens franchise is kind of stuck to having a ship, whole bunch of new casts, and a whole bunch of new murders, the type of deaths, what's the name? So it's kind of a hard thing
Works
to
for
do,
me.
huh?
That works for me.
Well, that's the thing. You have a thing where you have a bunch of movies that don't work though. You have the first two, because Alien 3 has a different locale, it adds some fun to it, but it has so many issues. And then you have the other three that are all bad. So it's
That's the problem when you have a franchise that's run its course, but we're still going to try to keep it going. Like, okay, how can we keep this going? We really can't keep this going. Okay, aliens are not vampires where, okay, you can introduce a new vampire. You can do vampires in space. That type of stuff. But with the story with the alien, it really only works with these guys someplace outside of Earth, tight space, someplace remote where you can't get to help. Because be quite frank, once you're in some place where you actually have access to the normal things that you would, these things aren't that big of a deal. It's really not that big of a deal. You should be able to call people out, shoot, take them out, bomb, done. That should be the end of it. So those are some of the basic limitations that you have with it. But you have the same thing with the Predator, where what is the big thing with the Predator? He's on a hunt. Okay, and so far the Predator has been what, 6 movies? He's 0 for 6. the whole idea of the movie is he's supposed to be killing off all these top. He's supposed to be going for the top prey, and one person survives, and usually that person just gets lucky. That's Dutch. That's I can't remember Danny Glover's character's name. But they pretty much get lucky at the end of the day. But then we've gone to the point where now we're going to get Predator armor, or you go to the point where you have Predator prey, with the girl who's sliding around and beating him with his own technology, because the franchise doesn't really have that much elasticity. So you have to be very, very clever within the small framework in which this story works, and they're not. So that's where we get, that's where we start getting stuff like, hey, we're gonna have humans getting pregnant from the pregnant. Like, no, the whole thing was symbolic of pregnancy anyway, or at least what I read was supposed to be a man's fear of what pregnancy actually is. But you already have that with the face hugger putting the egg in and then exploding. So I don't know how much more pregnancy you can get than that if you're looking to that symbolically, or even if you're looking to do it actually, because it's still an alien. It doesn't have to. We wouldn't expect it to happen in the same manner in which a human being would get pregnant. Male and female conception of offspring. Yeah, so they run aground. They run aground on that. They run out of ideas, and then be like, well, what razzle dazzle and bells and whistles can we put in it this time to get people to look?
Well, here's the thing. The thing is, we'll just mention it a bit on that. Obviously they just want to make it more gruesome. in the saying no, get that, whatever the face hugging thing is, get that thing out of stop. Get that thing out of don't put that thing anywhere near me. That sort of thing. But ultimately I think when you have something like this, and outside of, for me, it's really only the first Predator, but and I wanted to see Predators, but when I started watching it, it fell apart for me too. I think you have a decent.
Hold on. Go back. Why did it fall apart? Why did it fall
I don't
apart?
remember. I didn't watch the whole thing. All I know is Adrian Brody was in it, and I wasn't too. I can't.
Adrian Brody, strike one. We go from Arnold Schwarzenegger to Danny Glover to Adrian Brody. Okay, come on. Adrian Brody's not supposed to be taking on the Predator. That's strike one. And come on, I know you're probably going to think the same thing I am. What was the other reason?
I don't remember enough to say, so you got to continue this.
They put them in a freaking gaming ward. Okay, they put them in a gaming ward with Predator dogs to go and hunt them. it's impossible. You can't survive.
Mhm.
Can't survive this. This is like those movies where the guy's outrunning the dog, and we know the dog would be on him in like 5 seconds, if that. It's like it's like no, you can't survive. The best they could have hoped to have done is what they really want to do is a movie where the human being goes to the predator place and hunts the predators. That's what they really want to do at the end of the day. And they don't know how to pull that off because they've never really developed the predator world or this particular alien race. They're still not fully developed. But the second the second we got, it's Adrian Brody, we got this team of guys. They're trying to evoke what they had in the first Predator, but then you have them on this alien planet. They're like, come on, these guys are dead. They're toast. You can't survive. Come on.
Yeah. Well, they were, trying to get the special, like, that's what the first movie was about, where you see it. And I'm saying, as a kid, the idea of seeing Commando, and I didn't know what was going on. I was like, I don't really want to see a Commando. My father, like, no, you guys are gonna like this. And we were, in that point, we were when that came out, we're well beyond, we were, in our late teens. So it's like, well, seeing almost pretty much everything you could see at that period. And the next thing I was like, oh, wow, what the hell just came out of the forest? So that's the fun part of seeing, these highly tech people getting torn apart type of deal. So you get a different aspect, and the characters were so strong. And I think the characters might be strong in this alien Romulus, but when you have space and you have people on different worlds and different type of deals, you can try to figure out, different things for them, but people go back to being stuck on, a spaceship in space, and hopefully they'll be able to recapture it, but you can't, it's not the spaceship. In space, you can go to different areas, different lands that we haven't seen, and you can't they turn it into Camp Crystal Lake, because you can see in the comic books, it's kind of like, here's another set of GIs that the aliens kind of mow through, or the GIs. So it's a tough franchise to kind of do and to come up with something interesting. The Prison Planet sounded all right, or that sort of thing, but obviously execution, it kind of fell apart. So I'm hoping for the best, but I hope in doing this success, then they figure out something else to do, because this current run, you had 3 strikes. No, you had, I guess you could say 2 strikes. You already had 3 strikes. You had 3, 4, and Prometheus. We start over. Now you had 2 strikes with Prometheus, Covenant, and what this is. You get you get a bunt, or you get on base with this one. Don't, have someone come up with something that's really good, or different planet locale that looks a little different. You're doing all the alien, you got cool looks. Figure some place that it's going to be look exotic with humans on it, and oh no, here we go again. So,
Petey,
what?
shame on you. Shame on you for giving Prometheus only 1 strike. No. Okay? Prometheus is just getting thrown out of the game. That's what it is. We just, what? Get out of here. That's what Prometheus was. That was, oh, good grief. I mean, and Prometheus, they had some horror stuff in there that I was kind of like, ugh. It's like, all right, you got some of that aspect there, like when the chick got pregnant. I mean, exactly what they wanted, right? They wanted that, right? They're just like, this is some nasty stuff. I thought one of the things that they did was pretty well was like, they do the whole thing where she's got to like do her own C-section. They get the thing out, and you look at it, and it's barely being held by that thing. Whatever those space forceps, if you will, that are holding it. And you look, it's like kind of writhing and wriggling around. You look, that thing looks like it's gonna slip out of there at any second at the end of the day. Disgusting. But okay, that is an aspect that you want in these types of, horror film, that type of stuff is supposed to be there. Little blood and guts, well, not blood and guts, but that nastiness at the end of the day. But the rest of the film was just like, ah. But what were they trying to do? They were trying to answer the unanswerable question. Where did the aliens come from? And somehow the aliens are linked to us, and that whoever created us wants us all dead. And that's how the aliens got created. And you're like, what? This doesn't make too much sense at the end of the day. Because then you have the other questions that came out of it. Well, what did we do? Why do they hate the creation? Is this just some symbolic Is this like, they're just their symbolic answer for how they feel about God, and God hates people? What is it that we were supposed to actually get from this? And all we could get from it was a bad story,
Yeah,
really bad.
I would go to agree with the two strikes. So they're on three strikes now.
Threw them out of the game, out of the
But
game, get out of here.
I go to that scene that you mentioned, and that was giving us another visual we hadn't seen. Obviously, with the space tech, they would be able to, figure out this foreign organism and take it out, even though they, instead of the way the face hug, it was a whole pregnancy. They basically asked us to suspend disbelief that first off, you have this foreign organism that's going to be a problem. And they say, she's going to be a scientist, so she won't kill it. And it's like, you crazy? Destroy that thing. No, no, we need to see it come back later, so she can't destroy it. And then, like, her going back to work right after, it's like, yo, maybe she needs some sort of space regeneration, everything to go back to what's the name, some sort of nutty thing that they could put together, because you guys have blown it right here. You've already blown it with the zombie alien characters that are jumping around, but then you go even further with the I want to have a baby and I'm able to be walking around after they cut the major surgery. Like, no, no, I'm okay. And she goes into
No, you're not.
space. So
No, you're not okay. No, you're not.
so it was a lot of bad stuff, but hopefully this one goes back to where it was.
You remember the scene? Is the scene where they're on the planet, and that they, of course they're stupid, so they see that thing in the water, and they're like, "Oh, what's that?" I was like, "It's dangerous. It's whatever it is dangerous." So the thing goes over, cracks the guy's arm open so he can get inside of his butt, and then I was like, "Well, okay, that was gruesome, but what was the point? What was the point of it?"
Yeah.
Because I'm thinking, okay, how did this connect to the alien? Because this is also something that wants to get inside of the body. And I'm like, well, what was the point? It didn't make a whole bunch of sense at the end of the day. And they tried to do the same thing with the alien. We're like, okay, I think he tried to cut it off. The next thing you know, it turns, it's got acid for blood. And so I'm like, okay, where's the connection with any of these things? It was a lot of randomness.
Yeah.
That doesn't connect. And had the nerve to call it a movie. It was just like, oh, good grief.
Well,
Good grief.
I think isn't it J.J. Abrams, the mystery box? He's like, let's give him a mystery box and people will be debating this stuff forever. And they're like, no, we're not going to be debating what these guys are. So anything could be better than Prometheus, as gorgeous as it was, how many talents it had in it. Ultimately, it was the dumb
Isn't that more?
planet.
That's more of a reason to throw them out of the game. You had, I mean, how many A-listers did you have in that movie?
Everyone was. Everyone.
And you still can't get this right? Good grief.
So, all right. So, we're looking forward. I believe I can say we're looking forward to this Romulus, hopefully getting back to where they were. And once it comes out, we'll definitely check this out. People obviously looking, huh?
One thing I'll say is that, see, when the franchise starts to run aground, they always want to say, okay, let's go back to the roots of whatever. Let's go back to the roots. Okay. And so but let's say it really ran aground with Aliens 4, because Aliens 3 that's the one where, okay, let's try something different. And it wasn't that much different at the other end of the day. They tried to put them at an even greater deficit against the alien, but they found a way to still make it out. Okay, great. But then you go to 4, and 4 is just off the rails. It doesn't make any sense. Ripley's not even in the movie; it's her clone, and it should have just ended with 3. Now they have the idea of, okay, we can keep making these movies, different characters, just gruesome, and these sorts of things. So it's like, okay, this film Romulus, because it's set between I believe it's set between like the first film and the second film, something of that nature. Since that's where it's at, they're like, okay, so we can try to get back to the roots of this particular film. But this is not a film that has okay, it may have roots, but the product of those roots, the tree, if you will, isn't very big. It's not very big. So that's why you're going to say, okay, we're going to go back, we're going to be in space, we're going to be on a spaceship, because that's everything that worked in the first movie. And then if you don't do that, then what are you going to try to do? We're going to try to do everything that worked in the second movie, which is okay. We're surrounded by these things. We're in this cavernous place with all of these hidey hooks and in cubby holes, and we don't things that can sneak up on you at any time. And that's where they went with the second one. So now okay, this one looks like it's going to go back to its roots. Fine, at the end of the day, but do you have a story to actually go along with it? Because now, in order to really sell this, the first two are about the alien. We're really getting to know that particular this horror creature. Now we know them. We know exactly what they do, why we should be afraid of them. So then it becomes, all right, what's your story outside of that? Because the way that they go with these things is that they're going to give the aliens new powers. Instead of having 2 mouths, they'll have 6. They'll be like flying by whipping their tails fast, some nonsense of that nature. So that's what I'm looking for in this film. If you can get back to your roots, fine. But Alien didn't work just because it was new and because of the creature, but there was also a good, solid story.
Mm-hmm.
There was also a good, solid story behind that. So if you have that, then yeah, I think you can go forward with this. But like you said, you got the J.J. Abrams dudes over here, like, oh, they'll argue about this and they'll do the heavy lifting. Once you do that, we don't have the story anymore. We have them leaning on the audience to fill in all the gaps.
Well, I think one of the things is they also should think about, which is, going on the low end of a franchise. I watch Friday the 13th Part 6, Jason Lives a lot, because it's not necessarily that great, but there's a character, it's like takes place at the Crystal Lake. They have the new cop that's there, but one of the counselors is a daughter of the sheriff, and she's just a hot in the pants girl. And this kid from episode 5 is like, Jason's here, and she's just a character who's she's not the lead. That guy's the lead, but she kind of takes the reins where she just she sees this guy who's saying all this doom and gloom, and she just finds him cute. So this leads her into the story. He gets jailed, and she's in there with him, and she's like, we got to figure out how to get you out. So they get him out, and she's just this enjoyable character to you. And that's the thing that then when she's in danger and all these other people are in danger, you're just like, oh man. And then when you see her father get killed or get dismembered, you're worried about him because you're like, oh man, her father's been turned into bent the other way. So it's like, figure your characters out first, and if they're interesting enough, if you're going to give us more of the same, and we see this happen in movies, the dynamic can be there. You can give us more of the same, but just your characters that you bring in, then not to say you care about them, but it's just interesting. Make sure that they're interesting, so when they die, you're like, oh, there's some elements when they die, and that's the way, even with Spock's death, because death doesn't always work on camera, but the idea that they did some subterfuge, like who's the name? Kirk doesn't know that Spock is what Spock's doing, and everyone's telling Spock not to do it. We know Kirk doesn't know all this stuff is happening, and all this anguish is happening in down in the Enterprise. So then when we get to Kirk, and he's like, "Thanks, Scotty," or "Thanks, Spock, you guys did it." Like, whoop, and it's a shift of the emotion. So it's like, that's what you have to think about when you look at this stuff. Make your characters interesting, make some things. If you're going to give us more of the same, which is what Hollywood does, find ways to keep your characters interesting. That's all I can say. So if you're going to do a Romulus 2 and 3 and 4, keep having a new set of scientists or military guys interesting so you care about them. So you remember Vasquez, you remember Game Over Man, all that stuff that people remember. Like you remember in the first one with black dudes telling the girl to run so he can do something, and she's like frozen. We can't use it because she's all frozen. And then he ultimately dies terribly too, and all this stuff. You care about these guys, and that sort of thing. And that's what the first one had going for it. You didn't expect what was going to happen. You didn't know that the first guy you saw was the first guy who was going to die. The captain who's in there, you don't know that you think the cat, first point, you say the cat's supposed to get it in immediately. Cat's not supposed to make it into the movie. Then it got so much people thought, hey, the cat is working with the alien, because they never see. Usually the cat gets boiled in the stew, like in what's that thing, Fatal Attraction. So I say all that to say, huh?
The cat. If you remember if you go by the franchise, that cat was the sole survivor. The sole survivor of that ship. Everybody died. Ripley died. Everybody off that ship died except the cat. The cat lived to be a ripe old age.
Jonesy, you made it. So that's it. We'll once we comes out, we should be able to we'll review it and hopefully we will not be dissatisfied. Spinner Rack.
We're out.